everyone, welcome to another Procreate tutorial. This is the drawing that we will be completing in today's video. If you are new here, I mainly post Procreate tutorials, so if that is something you are interested in, go ahead and subscribe. Otherwise, before we get started, the only thing that you will need to do is download the color palette and the font that we're using today. I have them linked in the description below. They're totally free to download. For the color palette, just double tap the file that downloads and it'll automatically pop into Procreate with that color palette so you can use the same colors as you follow along with the video today. With the font, all you need to do is add a layer of text, open up your font library, and then click Import Font, and then find the file that you downloaded to import it. So take a second to go and get that done, and then come back and we will get started. Okay, first things first, we will go over our canvas dimensions. They are 10 inches by 10 inches at 300 dpi or 3000 by 3000 pixels. The color profile that we're using today is the second one on the RGB list. And for our layers today, we need about 20 layers by the end of the video, so make sure you have that many available by checking here. If you do not, you can always lower your DPI here to get more layers. And this is our lovely color palette that we're working with today. So we are just going to go ahead and get started. The first thing that we're going to do is set the background color on this background color layer. So open up your layer menu, find this background color layer, tap it, and it'll open up your color palette. And we are going to select the first color on the first row of the color palette, this gray color, to fill that in. Then we will be on layer 1 still. We will grab the second color on the top row of the color palette. We will grab the selection tool, set it to rectangle with color fill turned on. And we are just going to draw the Polaroid shape. So we are just going to draw, starting a little bit from the top of the screen, just kind of anywhere really, because we'll recenter it later. We're going to draw a nice rectangular shape, maybe about like this. And then let that go. Click the arrow tool to deselect it. Click the selection tool again to reselect it. Make sure it's still set to rectangle and then turn off color fill. And now we are going to make the little square that our picture will be in. So it's just going to be on the top section of our Polaroid. So I'm going to start on the top left corner and go in a little bit from the left and down a little bit from the right, kind of in an even amount of space, and start there. And then draw to the other side and down and try to leave the same amount of space on this side, and then a good amount of space on the bottom for our writing. And then let go so the selection takes, and then click the arrow tool to grab that part and drag it off the screen. To get rid of it, click the arrow tool again, click the arrow tool again, and now this is what we're left with. So now make sure snapping is turned on in the bottom left, and we are just going to snap it to the center of the screen where you see this vertical yellow line, and then down a little bit from halfway. So halfway is where we see both yellow lines, so we'll just slide it down a little bit so that we have a little bit more room at the top, but make sure it stays on this vertical yellow line there. Awesome, so that's our first step done. So now we're going to create the shadow behind it. So let's go to the layer menu, make a duplicate of this layer by sliding left and clicking duplicate. The one on the bottom, we will select it, grab the first color on the first row again, and drag and drop it onto that shape to fill it in. You won't see it filled in because it's behind our white one, but on the layer menu you should see a slight difference in color. You should be able to tell that this one's more gray. On this layer, click the N and drag it up to multiply. This will help it create more of a shadow effect. Click the wand icon, click Gaussian blur, and then slide this to the right to create a blur, maybe about 15%. And then we're going to click the arrow tool and drag it down and to the right a little so it's more so just a bigger shadow on that side so we can see more of it there. Perfect. Now we will go ahead and start drawing all of our inside parts here. So they are going to be in between our two layers here, so above our shadow layer but below our white Polaroid layer, so that gives us a nice crisp outline. So let's go ahead and get started. Let's just add a new layer in between them and we will draw kind of the background part of our Polaroid. So let's grab the third color on the top row and let's grab the selection tool again with rectangle and color fill turned on. And I'll start just right where this white is inside of it and drag and then cover the entire square, not going outside the edges at all, and then let it go to fill that in. Then we will go to our layer menu, add a new layer, grab the fourth color on the top row, and we are going to use our monoline brush under the calligraphy tab. And the first thing that we're going to do is draw the sun or moon, whichever you think it is, in the background here. So let's go ahead and draw a circle shape, hold it down, touch your finger to the screen to make it a perfect circle. Doesn't matter what size your brush is at for this, and then go ahead and let it go. You can click edit shape if you need to resize it or move it around a little. I might put mine right about here, a little off center, and then fill it in. Then go to our layer menu. On this layer, click on it and turn on alpha lock. Grab the fifth color on the top row and grab the grunge brush under the textures category. Let's set that to maybe 50%, and I am just going to lightly add a little bit of this texture and color to my moon, focusing kind of more so on the bottom right corner and kind of following a curve pattern like so. Just add a little bit of texture to it. Then we will add a new layer above this layer. Switch back to our fourth color on the top row, and now we are going to grab the turpentine brush under the painting category. We are going to set this to maybe 30%, and we are just going to draw some little streaks on our sky in a horizontal motion like so. Only focusing on this top portion here. We're going to cover up the rest of it with other stuff. Don't have to do too much. We still want to see a good amount of our stuff in the background, but maybe make like some areas a little thicker than others, like so. As you can see, I got quite a bit of it outside of my Polaroid here, so I'm just going to grab my selection tool, set it to freehand, turn off color fill, and I'm just going to kind of select around all of this and then kind of just keep over my white part here, which is on top of everything, connect that shape, and then drag it off the screen. Okay, now we're going to start drawing all of our trees. So let's add a new layer above all of the layers that we've done so far, except for our top Polaroid layer, so right below that one. And we are going to grab the first color on the second row now. Grab the selection tool again. This time set it to freehand with color fill turned on. And we are just going to kind of make some pointy shapes in the background to be like a big forest of trees, nothing too detailed or anything. So I'm going to start on the left side here, maybe about a third of the way down on the top of my Polaroid, make a dot. I'm going to zoom in here, go over a little bit, make another dot up here, and then go down and over and a dot, up and over and a dot, down and over and a dot, like this to kind of create this triangular foresty looking pattern in the background, making some trees taller than others, some shorter. I'm kind of having it go in a downward pattern around my moon, and then we'll work our way back up again to go off the side of the screen here, and then I will go around and tap down here to kind of draw the shape this way, go over and tap here, and then go back up and tap to complete it so that it will fill in like so. And then we're essentially going to add a new layer on our layer menu and do the same thing, this time with the third color on the second row. So grab that color, grab the selection tool again, same settings, and this time we're just going to start a little bit lower, but do the same thing here all the way around. Doesn't have to always follow the same pattern as before. And then we'll go around and connect it to fill it in. Okay, now we'll do some shading to these to really make them pop and have some nice texture. So go back to our original one, this one in the back. Click on it and turn on Alpha Lock. Grab the second color on the second row. And we are going to use our grunge brush under the textures category for this. Let's have that set to maybe 40%. And with this darker color, I am going to focus on the bottom section of the trees here that we can see. Adding some nice shading and shadow there. Pushing down kind of lighter as I get towards the middle and harder as I'm more so at the bottom. And then let's grab the third color on the second row, and this will be like our highlight color, so we'll put this at the top of our trees here in the background. Like so. Then we'll do a similar thing with our other tree layer, so find that one, click on it, turn Alpha Lock on, and we will again use our second color on the second row, our darkest green, as the shadow here. We want a really good shadow on it, so I'm going to start off pretty light with it on the bottom section here that's showing. Very, very light, and then I'll start pushing harder towards the very bottom here to create a lot of depth there. And then I'll grab the fourth color on the second row, this lighter color now, to use as our highlight color for the trees here. Again, kind of want to get to the middle, kind of pushing kind of light to kind of blend these colors together a little bit, so it's not such a harsh change. Something kind of like this. Now overall, I feel like these got a little too short in the middle, so I am going to grab both of my layers here. So this one's already selected. I'm going to go to my layer menu, slide right on the other one to select it. Click the arrow tool, and I'm going to set it to freeform and just kind of raise them up a little bit. And then I might even switch it to warp, and because this one area here is just a little too low, so I'm going to take this piece and drag it up a little bit like so. So make any adjustments to your tree line if you need to, and then we will move on. So next we're going to make our two main trees that are sticking up in the middle behind our tent. So let's add a new layer above all of our layers below our Polaroid layer still. Grab the 5th color on the 2nd row, and again, selection tool with color fill turned on, set to freehand. And we are going to do a very similar thing that we did before, but just with one singular tree this time. So I'm going to start right underneath my white part here on the bottom, just a little bit inside of the edge here, and make a dot. I'm going to go straight up and to the right a little bit to make the top point of my tree, and it is going to be outside of my Polaroid. So maybe about right here. And then I'm going to go down into the right and try to make a very similar angle and make another dot and then connect it. So now I will grab my arrow tool, set it to uniform, and if you need to change the angle of it at all, you can. I might change mine just a little bit, and then I'm going to set mine to freeform because mine also got a little too skinny. I'm just going to make it a little bit wider, maybe about right there. So make some adjustments. This will be our main tree shape here. Next, we will go to our layer menu, make a duplicate of this green layer, click on it, turn on alpha lock, go to our color palette, grab the first color on the last row now, back to our layer menu, this one that we just turned alpha lock on, click on it and click fill layer so it fills it with this dark color. Then we are going to click the arrow tool, set it to freeform, and this is going to end up being the inside little branch, but I wanted to use the same shape so that we kind of have the same idea. So I'm just going to use my bars to make it really, really skinny, and then use this top middle one to drag it down a bit too, so it's maybe just inside here. So it starts right here, it's very, very skinny, but it's got the same general shape. And then just kind of make sure it's in the center as best you can. If you have snapping on, it might try to help you, but get it to where it looks about right. Like so. Now, while we are here on this brown layer, we are going to add some more branches. So let's go to our layer menu, click on this layer, turn off alpha lock so that we can do that. But same color, grab the selection tool with freehand and color fill turned on, and we are going to zoom way in here to do this. So I'm going to start on the middle part of the branch here, make a dot, go out and up a little bit, make another dot, go down a little bit from my further dot in the middle, make another dot, and then connect it. Like so. So now you'll see we have a little tiny branch right there. So I am going to do that just down this branch. Maybe I'll make like 2 on each side, or 3 on one side and 2 on the other side. Something about like that. But make sure you're zoomed in enough, otherwise when you go to connect it to this middle part again, it'll just close your shape and you won't have anything there. As I get a little bit lower, I'll make them just a little bit bigger. So I think I'll just end up with 2 on each side like this. It's very simple. But when you're ready to move on, we are just going to add some texture to our tree in our back green tree shape. So find that layer on the layer menu, click on it, turn on alpha lock, grab the 6th color on the 2nd row, and we are still using our grunge brush under the textures category, still at about 30 to 40%. And with this lighter color, I am going to focus on the right side of the tree here, where my moon is. Then I am going to grab the 7th color on the 2nd row, the darker one, and focus that on the left side, like so. Okay, and now that we have that done, we are going to go to our layer menu and snap these two tree layers together so they're both on the same layer. But make sure that you like how it's looking first. And then we are going to make a duplicate of it. Click the arrow tool, click flip horizontal, and then we are going to drag it over to this other side, maybe even off the side a little bit, kind of off center here. And then we are going to set it to freeform, and we are just going to drag the tip down just a little bit. We still want it to be like sticking out of this Polaroid, but not as much as the other one, so that it's a little bit different. About like this. Okay, then we're going to go to the layer menu when you have them where you like them. We are going to snap these two now onto the same layer so that both of our trees are on the same layer. Okay, and we are going to now make them stick out of the top of the Polaroid, but the only way to do that is to erase part of the Polaroid where our trees are, because we still need to draw the tent in front and some other things, and we don't want them, we have to have that all behind this white layer. So what we're going to do is on our tree layer here, we are going to click the selection tool, turn off color fill, set it to automatic, and we are going to tap on the trees. My threshold's way too high, that's why the whole thing is highlighted in blue. We only want the trees highlighted, so I'm going to slide left on my screen. It doesn't undo my selection though, so I'm going to undo my selection. Now that my threshold's down a little further, tap a tree. Good, so that's about where we want it to be. So you don't want your threshold too low, but we want this whole tree selected. So my threshold's at about 40%, but you can just touch your screen and slide left to right to see that. So I'm going to tap the one, tap the other. It's okay if this brown part isn't highlighted. Unless your brown part also ended up over the Polaroid, then you do want to select that also. Okay. So without doing anything else, we are just going to go to our layer menu, switch to our Polaroid layer. You should see these diagonal like stripy lines around your selection. But now we want to be on the Polaroid layer. Click the eraser tool, whatever your eraser is set to. I usually just set mine to monoline. Increase the size, and I'm just going to erase right where my trees are there on each side. And as you can see, it only erases where our trees are and nothing else. So we don't have to manually do that. So then you can click the selection tool again to deselect that, and this is what we are left with. Okay, now we will start on the tent. So the first thing that we'll do is go to our layer menu, add a new layer above all of our other layers, below our Polaroid layer still. Grab the fourth color on the last row, and we are going to switch back to our monoline brush under the calligraphy tab. Let's set the size to like 20% this time. And the first thing that we're going to do is make the triangle that will be the front of our tent. Okay, so we are just going to draw a triangle shape. Hold it down until it turns into a nice triangle shape that's nice and smooth like this. And then go ahead and click edit shape at the top and adjust it if you need to. We want this top point to be above our bottom point here, straight up and down to make sure that it's nice and like even. And then make sure it's nice and even on the sides, distance wise. We want it to be probably about right here. We might have it over about right here. Going up into our trees a little bit like so. And then go ahead and fill it in. If you can't fill it in, you might need to close your shape somewhere. It might not be fully closed. Okay, then we are going to go to our layer menu, make a duplicate of this layer. The one in the back now, select that one. Click the arrow tool and make sure magnetics is turned on in the bottom left, and we are going to move it straight over about to the edge of our screen right here, and this will be the back part of our tent. And then while we're still on this back triangle layer with our monoline brush in this color, we are going to start at the very tippy top here and draw a straight horizontal line hold it down, touch your finger to the screen to make sure it's perfectly horizontal. You can click Edit Shape if you need to adjust it at all to make sure it lines up nicely all the way around, and then kind of fill in this other little section to connect it and fill that in. So now we should have two shapes. This is the back one, this is the front one, but together they make a nice one big shape. Okay, then click on this original triangle layer again on your layer menu, make a duplicate of it. Click on the layer, turn on Alpha Lock, grab the first color on the last row of our color palette, back to the triangle layer, click on it and click Fill Layer. Click the arrow tool, set it to freeform, and just like we did for our little tree thing here, we are just going to side to side kind of close it up and line it up here with the top of our tent. And make it as skinny as you would like to. I might do mine about here. And then yes, just reline it up with the tip of this triangle here so that this is our tent opening. See, mine's a little bit too high up, so I'm going to take it and move it down and line it up right about there. So that the top of our triangle, there can be even just a little bit of red space around it. That's totally fine. Like this. Okay, so now we'll do some shading and whatnot. So let's first be on this brown layer here. That's the opening of our tent. Since we are already there and Alpha Lock's already turned on, let's just grab the second color on the last row, switch back to our grunge brush under the textures category, set to about 30%, and we are just going to focus this towards the bottom area of our tent opening. Then let's grab the third color on the last row and focus this towards the top of our tent opening till they meet about in the middle. Then we're going to do a similar thing here, so let's grab our next big red triangle front part of our tent, click on it, turn on Alpha Lock, grab the fifth color on this last row here. This fourth color is the one that we used originally, so this fifth one here is our lighter color. So we'll grab that. I will use that towards the top of our tent and along the right side of our triangle a little bit. Very, very lightly. Just kind of highlighting all of that. Then we'll grab the sixth color on the last row and focus this towards the bottom until they kind of meet in the middle. About like this. And then let's go to our next tent layer, the one behind it. Click on it, turn on Alpha Lock. We already have this darker color selected, so let's just go ahead with that, and I will just focus that all along the bottom here. Like so. And then let's grab our seventh color on the last row, the even darker one, and focus that one especially towards the bottom. And then let's grab our fifth color on this last row here, the lighter one, and we'll focus that a little bit on the top pretty lightly so it doesn't overshadow our front tent flap. Okay, so those are our main tent pieces. So now we just need to add the poles and the ropes. So let's go ahead and add a new layer behind both of our tent layers here, right there. Grab this fourth color on the last row and go back to our monoline brush under the calligraphy tab. We are going to set the size of this to 25%, and we are just going to make two little vertical lines, one on this side sticking out from behind our tent. So make a line, hold it down, touch your finger to the screen to make it perfectly vertical. And then I'm going to just click Edit Shape to kind of move it around. Right about here, sticking out a good ways so that we can have our rope wrap around it. And then we'll do the same thing in the back. Another vertical line, hold it down, touch your finger to the screen. Click Edit Shape if you need to kind of adjust it. Okay. So those ones had to be behind the tent so that we didn't mess up any of the tent stuff that we just did. But now our other ones need to be in front of the tent. So let's add a new layer above all of our layers here below our Polaroid layer still. Grab the first color on the last row, the brown, and this will be our ground stakes. So let's make another vertical line with our monoline brush right outside the tent here. Hold it down, touch your finger to the screen. Let's make another one here. And the last one here on the outside. This one got a little bit too high for me, so let's drag it down a little bit about right there. Okay, and then we are going to add a new layer above those. Grab the last color on the bottom row. It is the 8th one in line. Still on our monoline brush, but let's drop it to maybe 10% so we get a little bit of a thinner line. And we are just going to, I guess on each little post here, I'm just going to make kind of 2 swoopy lines to pretend like they're wrapped around it. And then I am going to draw a line from this one to this one, hold it down, go to this one now and make the 2 swoopy lines. Now we can make one, this one to this one, hold it down, and then again make 2 swoopy lines on it. Okay, we'll do 2 swoopy lines on this one, and then a line from this one to this one. You can click edit shape if you need to adjust it at all. Okay. And then lastly, 2 swoopy lines on this one, and a line from this one to this one. Okay, and then that completes our tent. And then our last item to do is just to add our writing to our Polaroid. So that is where the fancy font comes in that you downloaded. So let's go to our gear icon, click add text. And of course it's gonna add it behind our Polaroid layer. So let's just go to our layer menu, click and drag it above our Polaroid layer. It always adds it on its own layer though, so that's nice. And then we'll click edit text, double tap to select it. First I'll change the color of it, so grab the color spot in the top right, click this black color, the 6th one on the top row, and now I will click the little keyboard icon and we will write our text. Oops. Camping trip, enter May 27th, 2022. Then I will select all of it, click this font thing here to open up my font menu. Because it went to some other font, not sure, but I will find this. It's called Collection Free Font. And select that. And then I'm just going to click my arrow tool, drag it down here. Turn off magnetics because that's bugging me, and then we'll resize it and recenter it nicely on our Polaroid where it looks nicely in the center there, and you like the size of the font or size of the text about right there. You can obviously put whatever date you would like to, whatever you prefer, maybe a special date that matters to you, or you can leave the text off if you don't want it at all. But once that is done, that is it for our picture today. So I hope you had fun. If you did, go ahead and give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you'd like to see more tutorials from me in the future. If you would like to share your drawing on Instagram, I would love to see it. So go ahead and post it and then tag me so that I can check it out. While you're there, go ahead and give me a follow so that you can see what I'm working on next. Thanks for watching.